Hey, my name is Kelly Kessler. I'm the host of the podcast Rewiring Health, and I'm obsessed with helping you stop feeling burnout, living in pain, and anxious about the future. You see, for years, I felt like I was never good enough. I repeated in my head, when I accomplish this, then I'll finally be happy. And even when I accomplished it, there was always emptiness in my heart. I always put others' needs before my own. Negative thoughts ran wild in my head, and I always struggled to truly feel like I could relax and be present. Well, through my journey of healing, rewiring my brain, regulating my nervous system, and reprogramming my subconscious mind, I have recovered from an eating disorder, I have healed from chronic back pain, and I can truly be present with my 2 boys and feel that I am living the life I was destined to live with purpose and with joy. And I'm here to guide you along the same journey of healing. If you've lived with pain for a long period of time, being told that the best you can do is manage it can feel demoralizing and like a life sentence of pain. However, Dr. Sabrina Crouch refused to accept that fate, and she took healing into her own hands. In this episode, she shares her incredible healing journey and how she broke free from living with pain. Dr. Sabrina Nicole Crouch is a New York State licensed psychologist, motivational speaker, and author. Dr. Crouch has over 25 years' experience working with children and families in New York City and Westchester County. Dr. Crouch holds a doctorate in school clinical child psychology from Yeshiva University, master's and advanced certification in school psychology from City College of New York, and a bachelor's from Syracuse University. She is also an American Board of School neuropsychology diplomat. Despite all these accomplishments, she is most proud of her own journey from managing to mastering chronic pain condition and believes in an integrated mind, body, spirit approach as the key to the transformation and finding true freedom. She inspires audiences to believe in the possibility and live every day to the fullest. Sabrina offers an exciting perspective on the art and science of healing. Her podcast titled Fuck Being Stuck, which is all about sharing stories of overcoming life's challenges and transforming pain to purpose. When Sabrina is not helping others, she can be found meditating, hiking, and with her dog Phoenix, gardening, and traveling with friends and family. So you wake up, your phone is right on the table next to you, and it feels almost like a magnet. You grab the phone, and before you know it, you subconsciously open every app, scroll through social media, you're on your email, you're looking at the news headlines, and you're feeling stressed. And this is how you start your day. I can't tell you how many times I did this, and it did not serve me. It set me up to be in a whirlwind of negativity, and I was just starting my day. And that's why I created the morning guide for perfectionists. So if you struggle with negativity throughout the day, and it's even worse in the morning because you don't have a routine, this will help you tremendously. It's literally everything that I implement that has helped me start my day with the right intentions and put myself into a place of inner harmony. So grab in the link below and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of Rewiring Health. Very excited to be joined by Dr. Sabrina Crouch. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I've been looking forward to this for weeks.
Yes, I know, it was so awesome to connect. I was on Sabrina's podcast, which you should definitely check out, and it was such a great conversation. So I'm looking forward to hearing your journey. And I know you shared a little bit with me, but I want to hear what brought you here, because I just found your story to be so inspiring. So would you mind just sharing what brought you along this journey into where you are today? Because like I said, it's just such a profound story that you have, and the journey you have.
Yeah, I was, I feel like I was living an ordinary life for a type A. Always busy, on the go, working 2 jobs and getting caught up in doing more to have more, and really not being present for myself to be present for myself. And I learned the hard way. Even though I'm a psychologist, I still have my own lessons to learn about healing. February 2018, woke up, went to pick up a mug and couldn't move my fingers, and had excruciating pain from my neck all the way down my left arm. Couldn't move my wrist. And I was like, okay, this is not normal. led me through testing, and the doctor said, no, it's related to the car accident you had a few years prior. And this was totally out of the blue. I thought I was healed from that, from the accident. And so I started pain management, which means they can't do anything to fix it. So that was the hard truth I had to face. And they wanted me to try things, epidurals. They wanted to put me on meds, but I work and I wanted to be functional. I wanted to drive. I wanted to be independent. I didn't want any medicine making me feel, off at all. And so I agreed to a low dose of Cymbalta. And each month I'd still be in pain. She would increase it. She would increase it. And I'd say, you sure there's nothing you can do? And she was like, no, when it gets worse, you'll be a candidate for surgery. And I was just like, no, that's not going to work for me. And then in my head, I was like, fuck that. This is not, I'm not going out like this.
Yeah.
A lot more life to live. So I started speaking to people that I knew that were into alternative health. So I had a friend, she's like, oh, I have acupuncturist. I tried that. I knew someone that was into emotional freedom technique, tapping. I was like, I'll try anything. And it took a conversation with this Egyptian holistic healer that I met when I was on a trip. That conversation just set me straight. And he simply asked me, what are you holding on to that you need to let go of? And I was like, oh, I had to exhale on that. And he was like, well, when you find the answer to that question, then you're going to find relief. And one, no one ever went there with me to make the connection between what my body was doing and my mind. And I thought, wow, I tried everything else. Maybe there's some truth to it. So I went back to a book that my friend Angie recommended called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I was like, okay, I read this book a year ago. Let me go back to the book because this is connected to the message he's trying to tell me. And then it led me to the other book, Becoming Supernatural. And that was it. Like that unlocked the key to my healing. And it all started with a meditation, me trying to meditate. Because I really didn't know much about meditation at the time. I couldn't sit very long. I believed all those myths. You have to sit still. Your mind has to be empty. Yeah, that doesn't happen. That's not how it works. You're supposed to just be aware of it and just get back in, and try to refocus your attention. So that book took 3 days. I noticed shifts in energy and movement through my body, and I knew I was on the right track. It was like planting seeds. And all I needed was that one seed to believe like, okay, this is possible for me. So I meditated for like a year on my own, just following the methods in the book. And then I had some experiences to test out all that I learned. And so about a month before COVID, I was in Bogota, Colombia at an in-person progressive workshop with Dr. Joe. It was just a weekend. And, I learned some new techniques, and I get on the plane, my alarm goes off to take my medicine because I was taking it every night at the same time. And I realized I don't know where the pills are. I'm on the plane, it's in the check bag, and now I'm panicked for like 30 seconds. And then I start laughing and I'm like, maybe I don't need the meds anymore. Like that was just like another seed that was planted, just the idea like, maybe I don't really need this. And then 2 weeks later, I end up in Peru on a mountain. My son, a guide on this hike that I really didn't think was a hike. I think that's probably why I went forward so easily, is because I didn't realize the magnitude of what I was about to do. But that ended up being a transformative experience because the hike became the meditation. Everything I had learned to do sitting in a chair, I had to do as walking, uneven terrain, and focus on my breath because we're in Peru and the altitude. I'd never been at that altitude before. And so I hiked 15,000 feet to 16,800 feet. I was the first person to summit that day. And when I sat at the top of that mountain, it was like my heart blew open. Like I couldn't believe what I had just accomplished. And in that moment, I'm like, okay, if I can master my mind and my body on a freaking mountain in Peru, I should be able to do this every day. And then that just became my mission, like to just embody that every day.
Oh my gosh. It's such a profound story, because what I love too about what you went through is that like you were not willing just to accept that this is what it's going to be like. Like you were actively pursuing something better for yourself. And I love how you talk about the seeds, planting, the seeds were being planted as you're going, and one thing connected to the next, and you're just open and allowing whatever messages came to you to come to you. And What an amazing journey it took you on.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. And my doctor, I think it took her on a journey too, because she's,
Mhm.
just a Western medicine, typical
Yeah.
pain management specialist, where this is the formula they follow. They believe that, you do the meds and that's it, nothing can cure it. And I kept saying to her, after a while, I was like, I've been trying something. I need you to decrease my medicine. I want to see if it's working. And she's like, it's not going to work, but okay. And she kind of went along with it. But when I got down to that last dosage, she was just like, okay, I think I get it now.
Yeah.
Because there's two things doctors don't consider from a Western medicine perspective is the power of your mind and the power of your spirit. And I taught her the power of mine and realizing probably the power of hers too. Like if she had something going on that she didn't think she could cure, that maybe it was possible for her too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then look at the ripple effect. Like now her mind is open to other possibilities. And now every person that she interacts with, she's going to approach them from a different point of view. Like, well, okay, there are possibilities of healing, not just managing and living with pain your whole life. So it's such an amazing like power that an energy transfer, you to her and then her to probably all the people that she's worked with. It's amazing.
Yeah. I don't think we realize like how powerful we really are. We don't. We sell
Yeah.
ourselves short every day. Every time we have a limiting thought or that feeling like I can't, this is not going to work. Woe is me.
Mhm.
We have to
Yeah.
let go of those because we have untapped power within us.
Oh my gosh. So it's so true. Our brain is just the most powerful thing. And we only, we level ourselves out where we don't allow ourselves to reach our potential. And we all have a gift. And it's like, we're not opening our gifts that we have. And for you, I know you talked about the Egyptian, the man that you're talking to, and
Mhm.
he talked about how, what are you holding on to? Did you ever figure out what you were holding on to in that process that you were?
Oh gosh. I mean, we all have layers of
Mhm.
trauma,
Mhm.
you know? We all have
Yeah.
layers of trauma, whether it comes out as people pleasing or, whatever it turns out, it's all trauma related. And I think we have to be able to see ourselves and be honest with ourselves and as well as compassionate because we all have it, and when you know better, you have a chance to do better. But
Mhm.
it all starts with being aware, as I meditated, things would come to me from childhood,
Mhm.
what like being in the hospital at age 3, where you shouldn't remember those things, but because of the
Mhm.
trauma, the memory was there of, the surgery and the blood and all that stuff. And I'm like, what 3-year-olds aren't supposed to remember this.
Right.
But those memories came up, as well as things that, you have to be more conscious of it and just aware of how it affects you.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think sometimes we just want to numb ourselves and suppress those things and just not approach them because it's very uncomfortable, I'm sure, to not that you're reliving it, but just to bring awareness to that. Sometimes that does bring on discomfort, but that's where healing comes. And it's like it can't grow in the light. If you bring light to it, it can't grow anymore and impact you anymore. And with meditation,
Exactly.
it's such a powerful tool because you're diving into that subconscious brain where all these things are and they're all living there. I know you talked about your meditation journey. Can you talk about that a little more? How like it can be really challenging for some people, and a lot of like I've experienced that, like, oh, meditation doesn't work, it doesn't work. And even though, because when you have an active brain, it can feel like, how do we, like you said, all those myths about turning your brain off, sitting silent. Can you talk about that a little bit more about your journey of
Sure.
learning how to make that work for you and how you could really dive into it deep?
Yeah, sure. So in the book Becoming Supernatural, he talks a lot about heart math,
Mhm.
the heart having its own power and intelligence, and we don't have credit. So it doesn't only just pump the blood. What it does, it's our creative center. We can tap into it, and there are more signals that go from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. So if you
Mhm.
tap into your heart, you're going to get those brain waves in sync and get them to relax. And so
Mhm.
heart math has what's called a heart rate variability measure, clips to your ear. It has a little app, and you just learn to breathe in and out with the pacer, and it gives you feedback. And the feedback's important because it tells you when you're on the right track to
Mhm.
relaxing your brain and when you're not.
Mhm.
So I started out with doing that because I couldn't sit for one of Dr. Joe's 40-minute meditations at
Yeah.
first. Um, And some of the ones I tried, I'm like, I didn't feel a thing. Like, I don't know what the hell I've been doing for 15 minutes, nothing but
Yeah.
making grocery lists and doing things in my head, planning ahead, reviewing past conversations, like totally off task. So I think the heart math helped me focus and tap in, focus on my heart to just for a few minutes a day and then increase. And then when I got up to like 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, let me try to sit through the meditation now. And you just have to be gentle with yourself. You're off, just keep going because it's working. You just don't know the effects right away.
Yeah.
So I would sit for as long as I could. And then when I couldn't, I would just get up until I was able to sit through the whole thing. And then I knew when I was in the zone, when I started to feel energy move through my body, I felt pressure build in my neck, which is, the site of my injury. And I'm like, okay, something's happening here.
Yeah.
And then I just kept going because each meditation could be very different, just have to keep going.
Yeah, that's so profound. And thank you for sharing that, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, that doesn't work for me, and it is not about going from 0 to 40. It's about working your way in. And like you said, giving yourself some grace that, if you're starting out with your brain all thinking negative thoughts or thinking about everything you need to do or what just happened, it can be very hard to get to a place where that's not the prime focus. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I do agree. And I had very similar experience with like meditation. Is like I thought I could go dive in full in, but you have to kind of work your way into it little by little, and then you start seeing the beauty of it, and then you want to. And like
Exactly.
the whole thing transitions from feeling like, oh, I should do this, to be like, oh, that felt great. I want to do this longer. And that's a game changer.
Exactly. And you don't just have to sit, like Dr. Joe has the walking meditations, which are amazing. The
Yeah.
walking meditations, of course, I love the laying down ones, but those,
Yeah.
I tend to doze off, even though you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be hovering between sleep and
Yeah.
wakefulness. And sometimes I'm just all the way there, like snoring. And my meditation partner is like nudging me at the conference, like, I heard you snoring. I was like, yeah, I heard me too.
You slowed those brainwaves right down, right?
Exactly. But the walking ones are powerful,
Yeah.
we did walk meditations on the beach and just
Mhm.
feeling the energy flowing through my body. I mean, at one point I thought there was like fire on the beach, like a bonfire, because I felt all this tremendous heat. And then when I
Wow.
opened my eyes, it was just me. Like, so
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are really powerful.
That's where you can really see the mind body connection. It's like, nothing was happening to your body externally, but it was like what your mind was creating and what your mind was tapping into, that you can start feeling that deep connection. And that's everything. And I know, you talk about like mastering pain versus managing pain. And that's such a huge difference. And I know you talked about how, like, the managing pain, but can you talk about again, how does it feel? And because I know I've been through this myself with chronic pain, but like, how does it feel when you were told that you just have to manage it, take medication, then you have to go do
Oh
surgery if
gosh.
it doesn't work? How did you feel in that moment?
I mean, hopeless,
Yeah.
you know, um, panicked, fearful, like,
Mhm.
what's my life going to be like? Am I going to be able to take care of myself? I live alone. How am I going to manage everything? Even the day-to-day stuff. Like, I couldn't use my left hand. So people are like, oh, you only need one hand. You ever try to open a bottle with one hand? What are you gripping with? so
Yeah.
like, so like small everyday tasks, like even opening a medicine bottle. I had to have my friend come over and unscrew all the tops at first because I couldn't function. I couldn't
Yeah.
function.
Yeah.
And it was just so uncomfortable all the time. It's like uncomfortable in your own skin. It was really insane.
Yeah.
Um,
And it can be it gets very easy to get into that vicious cycle where like
oh
you're
yeah,
struggling with that, you feel hopeless, you feel lonely, you're worrisome, and now your pain gets worse because that's all you're focusing on. It's like very, very
exactly,
vicious cycle when you're in that. And it can feel like
exactly,
there is no possibility for better. And it's like when you're in that place, like, and especially when you're young, like you like, I have a lot of life to live and I have to be productive. It's a scary place because you're stuck. And
yeah,
that's why I love the name of your podcast, because that's really what it is. You can feel very stuck in your life, and it doesn't, you don't know where to turn. Like there's no forgiveness in not being able to be productive and work, and yet you don't have the help
exactly.
in the place where you need it. And it's like you're just clashing. You have this constant resistance. It's a
Yeah,
really tough place to be in.
'cause it's like we've been conditioned to be busy.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know if it's just Western society and culture, but you always have to act as if you're always doing something, always on, always doing something. There is no off, you always have to be productive and doing something and creating. And if you said you were sitting there and you weren't cleaning or doing something, people are like, what's wrong with her? Like
Yeah.
she's not, doing what she needs to do as a woman. Women are supposed to do all these things.
Mhm.
Um, so it does take a lot of rewriting those scripts,
Mhm.
that we tell ourselves, and redefining what it means to be, a woman or a man, or whatever you identify as. We can redefine that for ourselves. We
Mhm.
don't have to feel obligated to do all the stereotypical things that we think, or things that our parents did. Don't have to be our way of doing things.
Yeah, such a great point to make, because I think there's so many of us that don't even question that. You just say, "Oh, this is how it is," but then until you really dive deeper, like, is that true? Do I really have to think that? Is it serving me? Like, until you start diving into that, and I know Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about the energy levels, and shame and guilt are some of the lowest energy levels you can experience.
Yes,
So when you're not being productive or you're not busy all the time, what do you feel? You feel shame, you feel guilt, and now your energy is even lower. And then, he talks about that internal energy versus external, then you attract more things that match that energy level. And again, it just
exactly.
continues. So yeah, we have to elevate ourselves from that shame and guilt. And do you mind talking? Because I get that, like, type A personality. I'm very much that person, like perfectionist, like go, go, go. Can you talk about your journey of how you started not feeling like you're attaching everything to like productivity, and you were able to like slow down to a point where you could serve yourself a little bit better? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I realized that I was focusing so much on everything external. I mean, the internal world is the one place that people don't really talk about going.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're not raised to go inward. You're raised to do things outwardly, and always be learning something, always doing something, degrees and stuff. And that's what our society values. But those things have no value if you don't feel worthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the inside. So I think that Allah's question to me, like, forced me to look at myself differently. And then I realized that once I started turning inward and talking about meditation, first, my friends were looking at me, they were a little skeptical.
Mhm.
But then I think they started seeing the shift.
Mhm.
And then that made me want to keep going in more, because I'm like, no, if they're noticing it, I'm feeling it, like, I'm just going to keep going. Because that's where the real answers are. I feel like the real answers to any difficult question you have are going to come from within you, not from outside of you. I think when you are able to tap into your own intuition and listen to yourself more, um, things become much clearer. Our minds are so cluttered with external stuff, from TV to, opinions to social media. Um, and those things really aren't helpful. They aren't helpful. They don't help you focus on what you really are at your core. And to me, I'm this energetic being of love and light, and that's not attached to a house or a car, or all those external rewards. So I found the internal reward to be more powerful.
Yeah, yeah, and so many people are like, "Oh, when this happens, then I can be happy. When this happens, I'll feel fulfilled." And then it's like a lot of times, there's very successful people that have everything. If you looked at them from the outside, you would think, "Oh, they must be happy. Look at all they have," but yet they feel very empty inside. It's just a testament to what you're saying. Like, you have to fill your heart internally first, and then those things, like, the external things, will never make up for the internal lack. And that's such a profound
Exactly.
statement, because
Yeah,
once you realize that, it gives you that clarity to move forward in a different direction and do something that different. So yeah.
exactly. And then you attract more people like the new you,
Mhm.
which is beautiful, because I've met so many amazing people since I started this journey to learning how to meditate. One lady I met, I just went to her son's wedding last
Oh,
week.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. So all these amazing connections, all these amazing beings that I wouldn't have encountered if I
Mhm.
didn't join a meditation community, and start attracting people that were more insightful, more intuitive.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? How like that. I mean, I know Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that because your external, how your external world changes once your internal world changes. But isn't it amazing to experience that? Like you're saying, with you seeing all these new people entering your life, it's just, it's amazing. When you were
Yeah.
going through that and like elevating yourself, I know this is one thing that some people struggle with, because when you elevate yourself, sometimes the people in your life don't necessarily elevate with you. Did you experience that at all, where you had maybe connections that were kind of lost because you were becoming a new version of yourself?
Oh, connections to things and people
Hmm.
shifted. Like I
Yeah.
remember waking up one day and I'm like, I don't need this house.
Hmm.
Like, I don't need all this stuff. I was one person in a 4-bedroom house on a quarter of an acre. Like I didn't need that.
Hmm.
Because home is wherever I am.
Hmm.
So if I'm traveling, I feel, I'm in a place where I feel at home.
Hmm.
So once I broke that attachment, a lot of the people shifted as well because they were attracted to that exterior.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it happens, throughout life. You meet people and there's a shift, and I call it putting people in a different rotation. Sometimes
Hmm.
you have to rotate people that you're close to out a little further just to see if it changes how you feel, in your energy and stuff like that. 'Cause some people can be draining.
Hmm.
So yeah, so once I started that, it was just a natural progression, like the stuff and then the people around me. And sometimes it can be hard to be around groups of people and learn about stuff that I don't do, or, like reality shows. Like I don't watch those. Like I don't care about those people. Like I don't know those people.
Hmm.
So it can be a little awkward, but I just kind of tap into my heart and just let them have their way, because that's what, they're into. I'm not going to tell them not to.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty profound when you start, and you start seeing things clearer, like maybe some of the people that the conversations you would be in prior now no longer are interesting, because it's like you can see, the more you elevate yourself, the clearer you can see things for what they are, and then you can start seeing like, is this serving my energy? And that's a really big thing, protecting your energy. And I think a lot of times when you're in a
yes.
vicious cycle, your energy is just a drain. It's gone. You're serving other people,
Mhm.
especially if you're a people pleaser, you're giving to other people, you're not putting anything in your tank, and you're just constantly, just running on fumes. And that's such a big part when you're evolving personally. And do you mind talking about, like, what do you do on a daily basis? Like, what is your self-care routine so that you can build up your energy and stay in a good place?
Sure. I think, well, I use the do not disturb function on my phone a lot,
Mhm.
like not
Yeah.
just at night. Like,
Hmm.
so if I want to have like a peaceful drive to work with just some music or something, some jazz, like the phone's on do not disturb. I don't want to talk to anybody, when I'm transitioning from home to work. Um, I definitely have plenty of alarms set for things, like the time that I meditate and, time that I do other important tasks. Those are really the main things that I do. And then for the meditation, it could be, sometimes it's walking, sometimes it's sitting, sometimes it's laying down, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 30 minutes. I just kind of gauge depending on how I feel.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for sharing, because I just love hearing people's self-care routines, because everyone is going to be different and it's going to look different at different stages of your life. But if there's something you can take from someone's routine and be like, oh, I haven't tried that, now you can start implementing it. So it's always good to hear what people do and what works that for them, because there's sometimes you may not think of that. Like maybe someone's listening right now and their phone's constantly buzzing and they're like in a good place, and then they get totally sidetracked because of that. Well, maybe now that do not disturb is such a gift to yourself when you start doing that. So yeah, I mean, that's thank you for sharing that, because I love hearing people self-care, because that's the most important thing. And then sticking with that and honoring yourself and your needs each day is absolutely crucial. I know you have a book and a podcast. Do you mind just talking about your book and your podcast a little bit, and who that's for? And
Sure. Sure. The first book that came out during COVID was Surrendering to Rainbows, The Art and Science of Quieting the Noise of Chronic Pain. And that book is more about my journey, with some, questions, journaling questions for the reader to engage with. Then from that, somehow I birthed a course and a podcast, Fuck Being Stuck. And it started out being for women of color to master chronic pain, but I think it's for all women as well, or anyone that feels marginalized. I think it's important that we create our own communities, to where we can empower each other and ourselves. And so the digital course will be out in the fall. I'm starting to pre-sell that now and get people engaged. And I have some extras and freebies to do throughout the summer to start to get started with that program. And that's all about having an aware mind, a tuned body, and an awakened spirit.
Love it. Yeah. And definitely check out our podcast. I love the whole premise of it. So definitely check that out, and the book. I love that. And just, a lot of times those stories of people's healing journeys really imprint into your subconscious mind. So when you hear someone who's been through a really tough place and has gone through the chronic pain journey and has come out on the other side in relief, I mean, it's so profound. You don't realize how empowering that is for your soul. So definitely check those out. And thank you so much for Sabrina for being on today and just having this conversation. It's such a crucial conversation because there's so many people who are suffering with chronic pain every single day and don't realize that there's so many more options than a pill or a surgery, and so that you actually can heal and not just manage it. So thank you for sharing your journey.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And again, for anyone who's listening, if you found benefit in this episode, please share it with a friend who could also benefit from it. And again, thank you for spending your precious time with me. Thank you for spending your precious time to listen to this episode of Rewiring Health. My mission is to inspire hope and healing through science-backed practices. If you found value in this, please share with 3 people and leave a review. By doing so, this message can be spread to those who need to hear it most. Also, to get updates on the most recent episodes, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being part of this community, and I am forever grateful for you.